The idea one know the accommodation. Because Manshia is not merely a palace. It is a living archive of our people's memory.
Your Royal Highness, Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II, the Asante-Hene, Nananom, Your Lordship, the Chief Justice of Ghana, Justice Paul Baffoe-Bonney, Justices of the Supreme Court of Ghana, Justices of other courts in Ghana, President and other officers of the Ghana Bar Association, members of the legal fraternity, honorable ministers here assembled, Honorable Regional Minister Dr. Frank Amoako-Hene, honorable members of Parliament, Mayor of Kumasi and other MMDCs, other government officials, members of the security services, His Excellency Ivan Ajimanduya, a distinguished academic and economist. Reverend ministers present, members of other religious bodies, Nananom and other traditional leaders, invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Officially, yes, my age is 1950, but my parents were not educated. So later on, when I went through the records, I realized that I was born in 1948. Meanwhile, in all my records, including my passport, is 1950. So I just want to tell you that I am 77 years old now. And I'll be 78 in October this year. Good morning. I bring you royal compliments from the chiefs and people of Nyansapo, the Western North, and the National House of Chiefs. I very much appreciate the honor done me and the National House of Chiefs by the kind invitation to this important ceremony. The anniversary lectures of the 150th anniversary celebration of the Supreme Court of Ghana being held under the auspices of His Royal Highness Otumfuo Osei-Tutu Asante-Hene, who I revere very, very well. And I am always excited when he refers to me as his father, because at a certain point, he was saying in Sefi, Your Royal Highness, thank you very much. On 2nd April 2026, the Supreme Court of Ghana officially launched its 150th anniversary commemoration of judicial service since its establishment under the Supreme Court Ordinance of 1876. This anniversary celebrates a court that dates back from colonial days and evolving over time to become an influential institution as the apex of the judiciary system of Ghana, and assuming powerful stature as the third arm of government with the exclusive mandate for the interpretation of Ghana's constitution. The Supreme Court of Ghana exists to serve as the highest court of the land, exercising exclusive jurisdiction over constitutional disputes while functioning as the final appellate body for all judicial matters nationwide. It also oversees all other courts and adjudicatory bodies in Ghana, ensuring the proper administration of justice across the country. I have learned the celebration is a month-long event spanning the whole of July 2026, featuring an array of activities designed to engage the public and legal fraternity. The celebration of anniversary allows for reflection on the shared journeys, the milestone the challenges and provides opportunities for learning from what worked and what didn't work. It is also for further strengthening of corporate visibility, public identity, and the Supreme Court of Ghana and bonding with stakeholders. This 50th anniversary of the Supreme Court of Ghana centers on the theme Honoring Past, Celebrating the Present, and Defining the Future. It focuses on assessing the judiciary's evolution, improving public trust, and calling for modernization and technological advancements in justice delivery, particularly in enhancing efficiency and shortening the time of justice delivery. Today's event. Today's event, however, which is under the topic, the Supreme Court and the institution of chieftaincy, the past, present, and the future, hosted under the auspices of Otumfuo Tutu II, will include a major anniversary lecture and community outreach program. Today's lecture will, among others, explore the historical and contemporary role of the institution of chieftaincy and the nuances between the Supreme Court and the chieftaincy institution as educating entity in Ghana. Chiefs had in pre-colonial times been the sole custodians of justice delivery in the society and various communities. In contemporary Ghana, the institution of chieftaincy is a legally recognized system of traditional governance operating alongside the modern democratic state. Protected by the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, chiefs primarily hold administrative, customary, and adversarial roles rather than executive or legislative powers. The institution of chieftaincy plays a critical, formally recognized role in Ghana's justice delivery, operating as a dual system of formal statutory education through the traditional councils, regional and national houses of chiefs, and informal, customary arbitration of the traditional and community level. It is heavily involved in resolving both internal traditional disputes and community level civil conflicts. Today, in spite of the phenomenal growth in our court system, the institution of chieftaincy continues to contribute immensely to justice delivery by educating cases in our communities, settling disputes to relieve the court system of its heavy caseload. Without the education roles of our chiefs in various communities, there is no way peace and harmony could thrive in our community. The educational role of the chieftaincy institution in Ghana is expected to continue into the future. We must realize that in every community, in every town, in every village, there is a chief. Democracy and citizens' expectations. Your Lordship, the Chief Justice, Nananom, ladies and gentlemen, Ghana has opted for democracy and the rule of law by adoption of the 1992 Republican Constitution. Democracy is also rule of law, and as citizens, we expect more transparent and fair application of law, expansion of citizens' freedom, and speedy delivery of justice. Our course should work hard to eliminate the public perception of political polarization and also improve public confidence in the judicial system. We expect to see extensive growth in the application of technology in justice delivery, such as electronic recording in every courtroom to preserve records, boost transparency, and eliminate disputes over proceedings. We also want to see improved accessibility to the justice system by all citizens equally before the law, for the rich and poor, vulnerable and powerful, and speed justice delivery as delayed justice erodes public confidence. Accessibility and speed would both be facilitated by expansion in alternative dispute resolution mechanism and reduction of the cost of litigation. Your Lordship, His Royal Majesty, Your Lordship, the Chief Justice, Nananum, ladies and gentlemen, with these remarks, I humbly accept to chair this function and kindly implore you to assist me steer the function to a successful end. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Reiterated what we say in Twi, the idea one know the accommodation from the skits that they performed. It was obvious that if Amankwa had any claim to any stool, maybe with the help of the rightful chief, he could be installed in Koswahi. For somebody who has brought Impuntu to the nation or the community, if the community recognizes that what we give you is in Koswahini or in Koswahima, not the Omahini or the chief of the town, you have to come from a proper lineage to assume the position of a chief. Another thing that I want to say is that the Ashanti Regional President of the bar implored us to socialize and then enjoy the life of in Kumasi. But yesterday I slept all by alone and all by myself. I have 2 more days to spend here, so maybe Nana didn't hear that. Your Royal Majesty, Otumfuo, Otumfuo, Asantehene, the Honorable Chairperson, the Honorable Attorney General or his representative, the President of the Ghana Bar Association, Mrs. Ifwagati, my lords and ladies, justices of the superior courts, may I specifically also mention the Lordship Justice Ejay Frimpong of the Supreme Court and Chairman of the Planning Committee of the Supreme Court at 150, and members of the Planning Committee, the Honorable Regional Minister, Dr. Frank Amwakohene, the President of the Ashanti Regional Bar, Mr. Kwame Uwuseche, Nananom, distinguished traditional leaders, members of the bench and bar, members of the academia, distinguished members of the security services and the RegSec, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Your Majesty, some places call us to speak, others call us to remember, but Menshia asked us to do both. Because Menshia is not merely a palace, it is a living archive of our people's memory. Its walls have witnessed generations come and go. They have seen triumph and sorrow, conflict and reconciliation, and those quiet moments when history turned on the wisdom of those entrusted with leadership. Here, yesterday is never entirely gone. It walks gently beside today and whispers to tomorrow. That is why it feels deeply fitting that as we mark 150 years of the Supreme Court of Ghana, one of our first major reflections should take place right here, not in a courtroom, but at Menshia Palace. For before justice wore robes, it wore wisdom. Before judgments were printed in the law reports, they lived in the memories of elders. And before our courts stood in a stone and mortar, justice often sat under trees, where truth was patiently sought, wrongs carefully weighed, and peace restored, not because one side had won, but because the community had been made whole again. The forms have changed, Your Majesty, but the calling has not. And it is at this meeting point that the Supreme Court and the institution of chieftaincy find each other. One speaks through the Constitution, the other through custom. One draws its authority from the Republic, the other from the deep wells of history. Yet both exist for the same enduring purpose: to preserve justice, secure peace, and protect the dignity of every person. Honorable Chair, 150 years ago, a seed was planted. Those who planted it could not have imagined us gathered here today beneath its branches. They simply believed that justice deserved an institution that could outlast any single generation. Those who came after watered that seed with learning, strengthened it with courage, pruned its leaves through difficult decisions, and shielded it when storms came. Slowly, it grew into a tree whose shade now stretches across our entire republic. We honor those who nurtured it, not because they were perfect, but because they understood that institutions must outlive individuals. Their greatest legacy was not just the judgments they wrote, but the character they gave this court. Every generation leaves its fingerprints on the institution it inherits. Some strengthens them, others weaken them. History always tells the difference. Our generation now holds both the privilege and the burden of stewardship. The baton is in our hands. We did not start this race, and we will not finish it. Our duty is to run faithfully, to preserve what must be preserved, to reform what needs reform, and to hand over a stronger court to those who will come after us. That is how great institutions endure. Your Majesty, the institution of chieftaincy understands this truth perhaps better than most. Its strength has never rested in age alone. but it is remarkable ability to carry yesterday into tomorrow without letting yesterday imprison tomorrow, to remember without becoming rigid, to evolve without forgetting who we are, and to remain rooted while still reaching higher. Every enduring institution must constantly answer the same difficult question: how do we remain true to ourselves while becoming better? That question faces the judiciary today, just as it faces traditional authority. As we celebrate this milestone, we do not gather merely to admire how far we have come. Milestones may matter because they remind us how far we still have to go. The greatest chapter of the Supreme Court must never be the one already written. It must always be the next one. That is why today's lecture is so important. Its subject goes beyond law. It is about the continuing conversation between two ancient and respected institutions that have shaped the conscience of our nation. One has spoken through stools, the other through benches. Both have answered the same human longing, that justice must be stronger than power, that authority must answer to principle, and that no society can truly thrive unless its people believed fairness still has home among them. Nananum, as Chief Justice, I come today not only to celebrate the court's history, but to express deep respect for the enduring contribution of the institution of chieftaincy to the peace and stability of our republic. Many disputes that could have burdened our cause are resolved quietly in our community through wisdom, patience, and reconciliation. The law recognizes this rule, and our nation continues to benefit greatly from it. As we look to the next 150 years, I pray that these two great institutions will continue, each within its constitutional mandate, to strengthen one another in the common pursuit of justice. For justice has never belonged to judges alone. It belongs to the people. We only hold it in trust, and trust built over generations must be guarded with the greatest care. The greatest inheritance of the Supreme Court is not its buildings, nor its history, nor even its judgments. It is the confidence of the Ghanaian people, the quiet assurance that when they enter our courts, justice will not ask who they are before listening to what they have to say. May that confidence never fade away. May that trust never be betrayed. And may those who come after us find the tree still standing, its roots deeper, its branches wider, and its shade even more generous than when it was placed in our hands. Your Majesty, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I warmly welcome you to this important lecture and wish us all fruitful reflections. May God bless His Majesty Otumfuo Otumfuo. May God bless the institution of chieftaincy. May God bless the Supreme Court of Ghana. And may God continue to bless our beloved homeland, Ghana. I thank you.
Guasio, Clasantina de Casangen. Wasaji Fogunya Guasio, Clasantina de Casangen. Quataquaine Case, Crobiane Casangen. Quataquaine Case, Crobiane Casangen. Mema Crobia, if you are woman Cotokungen. Mema Crobia, if you are woman Cotokungen. Asante Chantrochmo, Champon Fungen. Asante Chantrochmo, Champon Fungen. Asante Sebo, Sumanite. Asante Sebo, Sumanite. Robia Santina de Casangen. Robia Santina de kasangen. Sechiche modi nyawisio. Sechiche modi nyawisio. Why nebenya sejuso supeni ni akraba kuma sika po bano. Why nebenya sejuso supeni ni akraba kuma sika po bano. Binya sebia kobe. O binya sebia kobe. Manu atedi feba dem lefe kasangen. Manu atedi feba dem lefe kasangen. Chewani tofu moje nunge. Chewani tofu moje nunge. Adofo dade chmo champon nunge. Adofo dade chmo champon nunge. O soli kroyo sumendite. O soli kroyo sumendite. Jakwa jale na dia sedinge. Jakwa jale na dia sedinge. Akusibio kumblo chmo champon nunge. Akusibio kumblo chmo champon nunge. Jakwa office frampo demri ferisi. Jakwa office frampo demri ferisi. Setu cheme modi nyawisio. Setu cheme modi nyawisio. Ona na musuma nkabom empuntu oni nkosoba wasantimam ne Ghana mayina. Ona na musuma empuntu oni nkosoba Ghana ni asantimamu. Obinya sabia nkobe. Obinya sabia nkobe. Blagwa bakana ne frampo demri ferisi. Blagwa bakana ne frampo demri ferisi. E ma dabido la kwa yadungen. Me ma dabido da kwa yadungen. Ya donna ne dia ko bojo do ta touchmo champon nunge. Ya donna ne dia ko bojo ta touchmo champon nunge. O to sika sama na dija kunge. O to sika sama na dija kunge. Jakwa bo ban ko nyum fro. Jakwa bo ban ko jum fro. Ina fre frampo demri fa o. Ina fre frampo demri fa o. Wa saji fo gunya wasingen. Wa saji fo gunya wasingen. O presentina je kasangen. O presentina je kasangen. Wo kuro to belo de fa gunya gwasa jumna chemera.
His Lordship, the Chief Justice, is requesting the use of this hall. And therefore, they came to seek clearance from me. I said, who am I? I don't want to be charged for contempt. So please allow them to use the hall. Because that's where I was trained, so I always refer to him as my chief. He's the president and chairman of today's event. Your Lordship, Justice Baffoe-Bonney'S, Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Nanan Mahima, venerable members of the bar and bench, Excellencies, cherished citizens of our dear country, Ghana, ladies and gentlemen. I'm deeply honored to be here with other revered traditional rulers in the midst of this distinguished gathering, a special guest of honor to reflect with you on a subject that lies at the very heart of our nationhood, the relationship between the Supreme Court of Ghana and by extension, the judiciary of the Republic of Ghana on the one hand and the institution of Chieftaincy on the other. On my part, my Lord, and I believe I speak for all of us, the theme for the anniversary, honoring the past, celebrating the present and defining the future, is eminently apt. Equally, the topic of today's lecture, the Supreme Court and the institution of Chieftaincy, is particularly apposite. It is fitting that we gather under this felicitious theme and judiciously chosen topic to reflect on these two institutions. One, ancient, rooted in custom and the accumulated wisdom of our ancestors, and the other, modern, born of constitutional and other legal design. Together, we have shaped the character of our nation's legal and cultural identity. Long before the colonial courtroom was built, as the Chief Justice intimated, the institution of chieftaincy stood as a principal organ of governance, justice, and social order among our peoples. The chief was and remains the supreme priest, judge, custodian of land, and symbol of the continuity between the living, the dead, and the yet unborn. Disputes were settled beneath the great tree, before the stool or the skin, through processes that prize reconciliation over retribution and community harmony over the vindication of narrow legal rights. The advent of colonial rule introduced a second parallel stream of authority, the English common law and its hierarchy of courts, with the Supreme Court eventually becoming the apex. For much of our colonial history, these two streams often ran uneasily alongside one another. Chieftaincy was at various turns courted and co-opted through indirect rule. Yet it also had its judicial functions curtailed and its authority made to answer to a foreign sovereign and foreign law. Independence in 1957 did not resolve this tension so much as inherit it. Successive constitutions grappled, sometimes uncertainly, with where chieftaincy properly belonged within a modern constitutional order. It is a matter of record that chieftaincy has, at different moments in our post-independent history, been sidelined by political actors who saw it as a rival center of authority. For instance, laws were enacted to de-recognize persons who, under customary law and usage, had been installed as chiefs. In the same vein, enactments were made to recognize persons as chiefs when they were not, by customary law and usage, qualified as such. Yet, chieftaincy has endured precisely because it commands legitimacy that no statute alone can confer. The 1992 Constitution marks the decisive turning point in this long history. Article 270 guarantees the institution of chieftaincy, together with the traditional councils, as established by customary law and usage, and expressly forecloses Parliament from legislating in a manner that detracts from or derogates from the honor of dignity of the institution. My Lord Chief Justice, this must serve as a notice to all persons, especially those of the bench and bar, that the Nananom are intimately familiar with the laws that concern the institution of chieftaincy. The institution of chieftaincy is therefore not merely tolerated by our modern constitutional order, it is entrenched within it and recognized as a co-equal pillar of our governance architecture. Yet, recognition alone does not resolve every question. It has fallen to the traditional councils, judicial committees of the Houses of Chiefs, and ultimately to the Supreme Court to give that recognition practical content. The Supreme Court has, over the decades, developed a substantial and increasingly sophisticated jurisprudence on chieftaincy matters, determining the boundaries of the exclusive jurisdiction of the judicial committees under Articles 273 and 274, the Chieftaincy Act, the relevant regulations and other related legal frameworks, adjudicating vexed questions of stool and skin succession, and referring the perennial disputes over stool lands to which our courts continue to devote considerable attention. In this role, the Supreme Court has acted not as a rival to Nananom, but at its best as a steadying institutional partner. a forum of last resort where the ancient wisdom of custom is tested against and reconciled with the values of our written constitution and other laws, including due process, non-discrimination, and the rule of law. Where custom is unclear, contested, or has evolved with the community that lives by it, the court has increasingly recognized its own institutional humility, deferring to those who lived and inherited knowledge of the custom in question, while standing ready to intervene where fundamental rights are genuinely at stake. We must be candid, though, about the strains in this relationship, issues at the Supreme Court, because we're able to resolve them here amicably and everything is fine. So your workload from our Santaman, we let us do it, and then the others were confused and settle it with them. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, today is rightly a day of celebration. We celebrate an institution of chieftaincy that has proven resilient, adaptive, and indispensable. The custodian of land and culture, the first responder in community development, and the moral voice invoked in seasons of national crisis. We celebrate a Supreme Court that has, notwithstanding the burdens of a young democracy, built a body of chieftaincy jurisprudence of genuine intellectual depth, one increasingly studied beyond our shores as a model of how modern constitutionalism may accommodate customary governance without extinguishing it. We celebrate above all the fact that these two institutions, the palace and the courtroom, have chosen dialogue over confrontation. The choice was never inevitable. It is the product of successive generations of chiefs, jurists, and politicians who understood that the strength of our republic lies not in the triumph of one system of authority over the other, but in their principled coexistence. If we are honest in honoring the past and clear-eyed in celebrating the present, we must equally deliberate in defining the future. Permit me to offer several reflections on the road ahead. The first is that the machinery of chieftaincy adjudication requires urgent modernization. The judicial committees of the houses of chiefs must be resolved, trained, and where necessary reformed so that chieftain disputes are resolved with the speed and finality that both litigants and communities deserve. Justice delayed in matters of stool and skin is not merely justice denied to individual claimants, it is stability denied to entire communities. Second, greater doctrinal clarity is needed on the precise boundaries between the exclusive jurisdiction of the judicial committees and the jurisdiction of the regular courts, particularly the superior court's supervisory and appellate roles. Continued dialogue between the bench bar and the House of Chiefs of the kind this very occasion exemplifies is essential to that clarity. And three, in Ghana, the final stages of process involved in the making of a chief is the process of registration of the name of the said chief in the National Register of Chiefs. The roles the various House of Chiefs play in this registration process deserves much consideration as the role these various houses, particularly the regional houses of chiefs, play in the registration process has sparked so much agitations and sometimes controversies. The provision of the law as contained in the Chieftaincy Act is that with the National House of Chiefs being the body charged with the responsibility of keeping the National Register of Chiefs in which particulars relating to a chief are recorded, whenever a change occurs in the membership of the Traditional Council or there's an occurrence of an installation, abdicating, or death of a chief, the Traditional Council of the area in question is duty-bound to report same to the Regional Houses of Chiefs, and the Regional Houses of Chiefs is in turn under a mandatory duty to report same to the National House of Chiefs for the necessary changes and recordings in the National Register of Chiefs. It must be stated for emphasis and for the avoidance of doubt that upon receipt of the CD form from the Regional House of Chiefs,
it has a mandatory duty under the law to transmit the forms to the National House of Chiefs. The courts have stated time and again that the duty of the Regional House is to transfer the CD forms to the National House upon receipt of same and confirmation of its accuracy. It is a mandatory statutory obligation which cannot be flouted by the Regional House of Chiefs. The courts have also maintained relative to the duty of the Regional House in transmitting CD forms to the National House of Chiefs that no discretion arises unless there is a demonstrable legal impediment, which the authorities have held to be death, abdication, and disposition. Consequently, the inevitable conclusion to be drawn from the above is that when it comes to the registration process, the CD forms pass through the Regional House of Chiefs, which acts as a conveyor belt or a conduit for transmission of the said forms to the National House for registration and nothing more. The fourth one, another issue of profound importance relates to land ownership within Asante. Questions concerning the nature of allodial title, stool lands, and customary interests continue to generate significant agitations, uncertainty, and sometimes litigation. And I had the occasion to comment when I was at KNUST, where those lands have been bequeathed to the university, demarcated by my predecessor, who then was a surveyor before he became the Asantehene. And that was a barter trade between us and Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah to establish that school for us. Some people have the irk and impudence from family heads or something to go and take it to court to ask for 1,000 and something acres of that school land. And with all due respect, my learned friends, some people also followed that. I believe that is wrong. First and foremost, it is imperative to state for emphasis that in Asante, allodial ownership of land vests in the stools who hold same in trust for the golden stool. There are no family allodial lands in Asante. Therefore, families and individuals cannot hold leasehold, can only hold leasehold or usufructory interest in lands in Ashanti, but never allodial interest in or title. Thus, if a person, a group of persons or family claims usufructory interest in land in Ashanti, same should be traceable to a stool, and that person, group of persons or family should be able to show at least a distinctive customary function that they play or perform as a person, group of persons or family to the stool, for them to continue to exercise their usufructory right over the land, but not allodial interest in, or title. And thus the Ashanti Confederacy in 1938 decided that all lands in Ashanti are vested in the stools in trust for the golden stool. This is our customary law, which is guaranteed by the Constitution. And please refer to warranty notes and you can find it there. Nana Chairman, the Supreme Court in conclusion, and more broadly the judiciary and the institution of chieftaincy are, in the truest sense, joint custodians of our constitutional order, one speaking in the idiom of statute and precedent, and the other in the idiom of customs and lineage, yet both ultimately in service of the same Ghanaian people. The past has tested this relationship, the present affirms it, and the future, if we are deliberate in building it as our ancestors and founders were in laying its foundation, promises an even more mature and productive partnership within the palace and the courtroom. I thank my Lord the Chief Justice for the honor done me in staging this celebration here in Kumasi, which I felt I didn't want any contempt, and so please come. I salute Nananom present with us today. I salute my lords of the bench and my dear brothers and sisters, the learned friends of the bar. I have the honor, and my wife too also, but when we are in the room, I speak law. I think in practice, Nananom also qualified to be referred to as learned as well. So, Mr. President of the bar, maybe, Madam President, maybe you will think about it. But I will caution not for them to use it for any wrongdoing. And I wish this occasion and the enduring institutions it celebrates long life and continued distinction. Long live the institution of chieftaincy. Long live the Supreme Court of Ghana. Long live our republic. Thank you and God bless us all.
All Supreme Court justices, please, you are to be part of it. The program has not ended. We're going to have a panel discussion for 15 minutes to interrogate what was delivered to us by our guest speaker.
Kura preko enim sebe odwampopo bi esi kuro nimu a wase wadore sra. Tanyini wontena fie ema aseduamfo.
Blani pie frimantam behin se pin enye nkwande wa na yesotro no wa.
Ansa na odi asebe fita na no makode ebrensi am wa otua ne nsem mojabu onim hu bi.
Duanani wie klaman wo ye sofo kra wo nye yie bi.
Tontonte ye no nsa na ye fa.
Nyansapo.
Abone ntaka na mane yakese na ntakra abone die fanyinam kwatere kwa.
Mada woro ma ntuma ye fe ni din de sei.
Ni din de Obama.
Akola wa no so pese otrimu osuma ense bratam.
The family honhon hia na America sa.
Sabe ka ya twa ni mu nyame nai ebu afa so enye de ya twa ni mu twa nyame.
Sebedi akone bakwen bodi atwede. Na se kofi nro no ya aben ntima nyina ni mu ampata na